Okay, today we're going to practice working with input and output functions. And specifically, the functions we're going to be working with are input, eval, and print. And so we're going to practice writing programs that make use of those three functions. And so the first program is movie rating. And I've gone ahead, I'm using PyCharm, and I have a sandbox project where I keep all of the work that I use for my learning, where I'm exploring working with Python. And so these programs are just for me. So I created a new program, movie rating, and you can see I'm very carefully following the directions in the assignment. And this is a really good habit to get into because usually when we build computer programs and software, ultimately, we're usually creating it for someone else or in conjunction with a client who has asked us to create something. Sometimes we create things for ourselves, but many times we're creating it as part of a group or for a client. And so getting in the habit of very precisely following directions is super important because if you're not meeting what the client is looking for, that's going to be a problem. The other reason that it's very important to follow directions is because it's really good practice. How can we expect to tell the computer what to do and follow our directions if we don't fully understand how to follow directions ourselves? So these two skills are related, and so it's just a really good habit to get into, to carefully read and follow the directions that you're given. So we're going to write a program, movie_rating.py, that asks the user to input a rating. So the way I might begin that is before I start typing my code, I always like to include my name. So get movie rating from user is the program we're writing. I always try to include comments at the top of my program that include the author, my name, what's the purpose of the program, why am I writing it. So this is also a good habit to get into. So I want to get a rating. So to do that, I'm going to create a variable, and I want to get as input a rating for their favorite movie. Can you give a rating of your favorite movie on a scale from 1 to 5? Okay, and one thing I'm going to do here is add a space at the very end here. And that's because when Python prints this out, the user is going to get to type their response right at the end. And so if I have that space, the user is not typing right on top of my question mark. Okay, so that'll give me some input. But the input function is going to give me input as a string. And in this case, I really want to get the input as a number because the next line in the problem says print the difference between the user's rating and yours. So if I'm going to calculate a difference with the information, then I need to convert it into a number. And there's a couple different functions that you can use here. Let's see. Good. So here I've used eval. You can also use int or even float if you'd like as functions here. Okay. I'm going to try and make this just a little bit bigger. There you go. So you can see the whole line. Okay, awesome. All right. So hopefully I've successfully gotten that information. So I'm going to test this right away. Testing. What do I mean when I say testing? Testing is when we run our code to see if it does what we expect it to do. And my recommendation is to test your program early and often. Why? Because this is the secret to not having show-stopping bugs. So I've had students sit down and write programs like this. They're very simple. So if you're a more accomplished coder, you can sit down and write this code without taking this step now. But when you sit down and write 100 lines of a program and it doesn't work, when you test it, when you go to run it, where's your bug? Well, I don't know. No one knows. It's 100 lines. One of those 100 lines is wrong. Maybe a handful of those 100 lines is wrong. But if you take the opportunity to run your program at every moment that you can that makes sense, then if you have a bug, you'll catch it right away. This is the secret to not having bugs that slow you down for days on end and have you banging your head against the wall. Believe me, I've done it. But the secret to avoiding those situations is by nailing down your development process and by really, truly working through it and running it all the time. So this is a simple program. I want to test that it works. The way I test it is I take the first smallest step I can, I get the input, and then I'm printing the output. So let's see it. Let's test. Let's make sure it works. Okay, so I'm going to run my movie rating program. Oh, and look, I even found a bug. I'll have to fix that. Okay, and do you see how my cursor is spaced for my question mark? That's that extra space I included in my string literal over here. Okay, so let's say my rating is 4. All right, print rating. I printed the rating out as 4. So my test already helped me see a bug that I didn't catch before because I had a typo. And so it's already helped me out. Okay, so I'm going to comment that out and work on the next line. So I'm going to print the difference between the user's rating and mine. And it says you should store your movie rating in a different variable from the rating that the user input. So I'm going to say 4. And then now I'm going to print again. So I'm going to reuse my print line because I'm going to be printing the rating. But really what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be printing mine minus the rating. Now I could leave it here. Let's test it, right? Let's see if this works. I'm going to run my program again. A scale of 1 to 5. Let's say 5 this time. Good. -1. So that's the difference between my rating and their rating. Okay, but what's that -1 mean? So it's a really good habit when you're doing input and output to make sure that the output is clearly labeled for the user. So to do that, I'm going to change my test case a little bit, how I'm testing my program, and write our ratings have a difference of mine minus rating because I chose, oops, I want to make that a string here, because I chose mine. So I'm sharing with the user what my rating was. There's nothing hidden. And I'm also explaining the two numbers. I don't have this random floating number that doesn't have any information with it. Let's try running this one more time. Can you give me a rating for your favorite movie on a scale from 1 to 5? Let's say 1. Our ratings have a difference of 3 because I chose 4. And we can make that even more specific by saying I chose a rating of 4, right? You could make those labels of your output very descriptive. Okay. Wonderful, wonderful. So that concludes our movie rating example. Let's move on to Grandiose. So I'm going to create a new Python file in here. And I'm going to call it Grandiose. Again, I'm really working and being very attentive to the instructions so that I'm aligned with the description here. Okay, so create a program Grandiose. So Grandiose Emily Hill. Oops. There we go. I might want to spell this right. Let's summarize what the program's doing. First, I have to read the rest of the question now. Ask the user to enter an adjective that is a synonym for faster and use the adjective they input when you respond that your laptop is so much faster than theirs. You're surprised that their laptop can. So I think this would really be laptop boasting is a good summary for what we're trying to accomplish here. So we want the user to enter an adjective that's a synonym for faster. So I'm going to use the input function here. So please enter a synonym for faster. And again, I'm putting that space after my colon. So when the user types, they have a little bit of breathing room. Okay, this particular example, we're going to be using this adjective as a string, so I don't need to convert it using eval. In fact, if I do, I'm not sure it would function the way I intend. Okay, so then I'm going to use the adjective they input when I respond. Print. My laptop is so much. Now I'm going to use that adjective. whatever it is, faster than yours. I'm surprised that your laptop, okay, let's see, I'm going to just put this on a new line, run this program. There we go. So this is my insult, my boast. And so I'm adding a comment here at the end of the line just to communicate what role this print line plays. Now, I didn't choose to run this right after getting the input because this is really just getting input and printing it back. So this whole program is serving as my test case. But again, we want to try to develop our programs incrementally by implementing as few lines as possible and then testing what we've written by running it. And that's how we have confidence that our programs work and that we don't have to spend hours and hours debugging our code. Okay, it's happened. All right. Let's try and run this. So synonym for faster, speedy. My laptop is so much speedy, oops, I should type speedier, I guess, than yours. I'm surprised that your laptop can run this program. And there you have it.